Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to my living room, a place where we never are, but right now the natural light is, it's going. I said I owed you a Q&A and here we are about a month later. As I'm sure you can tell from my vlogs and like any content that I've posted in the last month, I'm stressed. I've been doing too much, which is on par for me, par for the course. But this time I'm recognizing that I'm doing too much and I'm trying to scale back and figure out what a sustainable routine is for me moving forward. If you are watching this video and you're like, what are you talking about? You're not doing too much. You're barely doing anything. I am doing a lot. In the last 4 months, I've launched an app. I have started a new teacher training program, which I've partly finished. I applied for a master instructor program so that I can be qualified to lead teacher trainings. I applied for that master instructor program, got accepted into that master instructor program while all still trying to film new classes for my app. We've done 2 challenges in the last 4 months while still trying to maintain creating content and teaching in person. So I have been doing too much and I recognize that. And I know I've been doing too much because I've been feeling so stressed and my self-care routines and just practices have gone out the window. So finally I'm recognizing that. I'm coming to terms with that. I'm trying to scale back and instead of jump at every new opportunity and new fun thing, I'm trying to really ask myself some questions before I start something new. Now you can barely see my little dog Coco. She's right here. She's sitting very calmly waiting for you guys to notice her, but you can't see her right here in the corner, but she's here. She really wants to be on camera, but she's just a little shy. Anyway, so that's what's been going on with me. If you are a loyal Instagram follower of mine, you know all of that. And if you're not, that's okay too. But I just want to say thank you to everyone that is so nice to me all the time and so caring and considerate and empathetic towards me venting my stress out into videos and onto the internet. I really appreciate it. And I know sometimes I act as if my world is falling apart. It's not. That's just sometimes how it feels in the moment. But right now I'm feeling much better and more I don't know, rejuvenated and alive and ready to go. And I'm very excited for everything that is coming up for me professionally. So yeah, anyway, that's what's going on with me. Thank you everybody for sticking with me in this trying time where I've been trying to film YouTube videos and have been very unsuccessful at it. Thank you very much for sticking with me. So there were a couple questions that got asked in this post that I put on our community page. It was just 4 questions, but I'm also gonna answer some other questions that I've gotten on Instagram because I've been doing weekly Q&As every single Thursday. So if you have questions about anything, teaching, business, just about me personally, you can always ask those questions there. Every Thursday the question box goes up, but we will answer these questions now. This first question, what makes you happy when you're a Pilates instructor? I think there's a few ways I could interpret this question. I would first say just in general, what makes me happy is being around the people that I love and helping other people. That makes me very happy. As a Pilates instructor, what makes me happy is seeing my clients be successful, seeing my members in the app feel successful. Maybe they finally get an exercise they've been trying to execute for months and months or weeks or whatever. I think just seeing somebody else's joy in finding success in Pilates, that is something that really makes me very happy as an instructor when it's clear that people are really listening to what you say and they're executing what you say to a T and they're on top of it. And that makes me really happy too. I think just engaged clients makes me really happy, makes me feel like I'm doing my job effectively, and it brings me a lot of joy to see other people find joy in Pilates. So that's definitely something that makes me happy. Do I like traveling? Yes, I like to travel. Not all the time. I'm definitely a homebody, but I do like to travel. I think it's fun to go to new places. My husband and I love to go to San Diego. We've gone there every single year for the 4 years that we've been together. We love going there. It's super fun for us. We loved going to Kauai when we got married. I go back to Arizona quite often because that's where I'm from. And I feel like we've kind of bopped around, I don't know, just all over. If you don't know, I mean, I moved 3 times in 2 years, so I've lived in a couple different places. But yeah, I do like to travel. I think right now I'm kind of in my homebody era, which has really truly been my whole life. But right now I feel especially I just want to be home and be settled because I feel being at home makes me feel more grounded and calm. So right now I do like to be home more. Look at her. Just look at her. She doesn't know that her mom's, you know, on the internet. She doesn't even know what the internet is. Okay, the next question. When did you become a Pilates instructor? I first became a Pilates instructor in March of 2019. The first like training that I went through was a studio specific reformer Pilates training. So I was trained to teach like a specific format of reformer classes at this one studio. I got certified through them and was certified to teach that one format. In 2021, I went through a 500-hour comprehensive training where I got fully certified on mat, reformer, Cadillac, the chairs, the ladder barrels, the ring, all the accessories, all of that. The full 500 hours, I did that in 2021. And most recently, I have gone through the Peak Pilates Level 1 program. So I'm a certified Peak Pilates Level 1 instructor. But yeah, first all started in 2019. So I am in my, it's been 5 years that I've been teaching, 5 years in March. I'm in my 6th year of teaching, which is very exciting. And I started teaching, initially I was teaching in person. Then with the pandemic, I stopped teaching for a little bit. I went back to teaching in person. And then I started my online studio, which I started in January of 2021. I taught online well, I'm still teaching online, but I taught like only online for all of 2022, about half of 2023. I continued to do online and then I went back to teaching in person just because I felt like that was the best mix for me, doing online and in person. I feel like teaching in person makes me a better instructor, like being able to really see people and interact with people. That makes me a better instructor, but also keeps me mentally sane to make connections with people, not just online, but in person. So I really like the mix of teaching online and in person. If you weren't a Pilates instructor, what career do you think you would have? So I got my degree in public health and that had an emphasis on health promotion and health education. I wanted to be a health educator and run like health programs for behavior change. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. It was really difficult to find jobs doing that. So that is not the route that I took. I actually worked in insurance sales when I got out of college. I was knocking door to door selling Medicare plans. And then I got a job where it was still kind of sales focused, but like in a public health adjacent field, but I was an account manager for employer sponsored health plans. So that was different. And then I became a Pilates instructor and I did that full time and here I am in what is like the 5th iteration of me, you know, being a Pilates instructor in my career. I've got some more and I'm gonna pull them up. They're all on my phone. So I'm just gonna put this away. And before I get to these next questions, I wanted to say this. I am going to be going through the questions that I get about being a Pilates instructor, about teaching online, about starting your own business, all those kinds of things, because I've had a long time to think about this. I really wanted to launch mentoring sessions as a part of like what I offer, because so many of the questions that I get from you guys are about teaching and about like starting your own business and teaching online, though I get more questions about that than I do about actually starting a Pilates routine. So I was thinking like, oh, I'm gonna launch these mentoring sessions and I'll do it this way and open up like X amount of times to be able to do it in my schedule. And after sitting with that idea for like a month, I've decided that that's probably a little bit too much for me to take on right now. So instead, because I'm trying to figure out what content I want to put on YouTube and what content I want to, you know, continue to create and resources I want to continue to create, instead of opening up mentoring sessions, I still will, oh, there she is. What a good girl. You're being really good. Instead of opening up slots for mentoring, which I still will offer mentoring sessions, but it's more like if you ask me about it, you slide into my DMs and we kind of go that way. I'm not going to really like publicly launch it or advertise it. But in lieu of doing that, I thought that the best way for me to get information to you guys and share my experiences is through YouTube videos. So I am going to be making some more informational videos about teaching, the questions I get about teaching online, starting your own business, kind of all of those things. I have made a good amount of videos that are centered around Pilates instructor things in the past, like how to become a Pilates instructor, how I became a Pilates instructor, things like that. I think I'll probably end up redoing some of those videos because as I've continued to teach, some things have changed. So I'll update those with new information. And I think we'll kind of go from there. So any of you that have felt like you've had questions about any of the teaching side of things, more videos are coming to YouTube. I can't tell you when, I can't give you an exact date, but I'm going to try and do that instead of trying to do mentoring sessions and work with 8 or 10 of you every week online. So that's that. Welcome to my kitchen. I felt like maybe a vibe change up would be nice. Coco's hiding over there. She's making her YouTube debut. I think she's a little bit nervous. Are you nervous, Coco? I also think she's confused about who I'm talking to, and she also wants to go on a walk. And I'm just gonna pull up the ones that I got last week. So okay, here we go. This is just like 4 questions that I got last week from my Q&A that I did on Instagram. This first one is how to get comfortable teaching privates. Such a good question. The best way to get comfortable with teaching privates is to practice doing it. It's the same way you get comfortable with teaching group classes. You have to practice. You have to get comfortable with sometimes not knowing the answers to everything, comfortable with using different cues because different cues will connect with different people. And practice on as many people as you can. Practice on people that have never done Pilates before. Practice on your friends and family that you already have a close personal relationship with, and try and, navigate that client-teacher relationship. But yeah, practice is the key, and I'll share this little anecdote with you. When I first started teaching, I was trained to teach groups. I was not trained to teach people one-on-one. I really had no idea what that was going to look like at all. I didn't know how to structure a session at all. So when I started to take private clients online, I didn't feel super prepared to be able to do that, but I did it. And I learned a lot along the way in terms of doing people online, fixing people's form on Zoom, and getting comfortable with that, getting comfortable stopping people and saying, hey, can you move X, Y, and Z, or can you move the angle of the camera so I can see a little bit better? When I moved to St. Louis is really when I started to have private clients in person, and it was definitely a learning curve. Where I teach now, I do a mix of teaching group classes and one-on-one sessions. I've gotten a lot more comfortable with teaching privates, and it really just takes time. It takes time to figure out like what's going to work for your client, how to program for your clients. So give yourself time and just know that it'll feel a little bit uncomfortable for, just a little bit, but not forever. Not forever, for sure. This next one kind of leads into that first question. Tips on etiquette for teacher-client relationships, things you should avoid in conversation. What I would say with the client-teacher relationship is always let your client drive that relationship. Let them take the lead and you kind of follow suit with that. So I think a lot of the time with one-on-one sessions, we're uncomfortable, so we talk a lot, or your client's uncomfortable because it's a new setting for them. They're talking a lot, like they're laying down, putting their feet in straps. It's a different position than they're normally in. So like recognize that it'll be a little bit weird and uncomfortable that first time. And when they kind of make those comments that they're like, haha, this is so weird, like be like, yeah, no, it's totally weird. Like you're moving and I'm watching you move, and like recognize that it's weird sometimes. Let your client lead and know what your role is in the one-on-one session. Your role is to be the Pilates instructor. It's not to be their friend, and it's not to be their therapist. It's not to chit chat with them for 50 minutes to an hour. Your job is to move them through a Pilates class that is suitable for them and meets their needs, meets their goals. You will always have clients that want to talk more, and that's fine, but it is up to you to keep the session moving, or else you're going to be doing footwork for 25 minutes. Let your client lead, and you will have clients that are more chatty. You'll have clients that don't want to talk at all. You'll have it all across the board. So let them lead. If they want to talk, fine, let them talk, but don't ask like so many questions that they can't focus on what they're doing. What I've learned with asking clients questions is that it takes them out of the moment if it's not directly related to what you're doing. Like questions aside from how does this feel? How did that sound? Do you understand that cue? What is making sense for you? Aside from those questions, asking personal questions like about their kids or stuff like that, like you just don't need to do it. It takes them out of their head. And for Pilates, people really need to be so in their body. So while you may think that asking the conversational questions is going to help build that relationship during the session, it's not really helping that much. before and after the session, when you're, you know, getting to know them, yes, ask all those questions, get to know them, like have them show you picture, like you're going to become an integral part in somebody's life and you're going to be changing somebody's life with Pilates. So like you will know each other on a deeper level than you know most people, but just know what your role is during the session. And don't feel like you need to chat the whole time. You don't need to. Ask questions that are relevant to the exercises you're doing and go from there. If you weren't at a studio, would you consider privates at home? For me, no. I think like, I don't know, I think for me, because where we live is not somewhere that I have like an established in-person base, no. If I were still in Phoenix, maybe. I would maybe consider having people come to my home studio and doing privates. I think the best way to be able to do that is if you are able to like have your private studio be in like your guest house so people don't have to walk through your house and do privates. I think that's why I wouldn't do it here, because like my studio is upstairs, so people would have to walk through my entire house, and I just don't want to let people in on that side of my life, let them know the real me. It's just not really what I want to do. But what I would consider if I weren't teaching at a studio in person right now, I would almost like rent a space and do things that way, just so that you, I don't know, like my husband works from home, so I don't want to disturb his work day. Like for me, it becomes less about me and more about how does it affect my partner's routine. And if he's at home, like I don't want people to have to come parading through our house just to do Pilates with me. Okay, best steps to prep for post-teacher training. Such a good question, and not something I would have ever thought about post-teacher training. I would say as you're approaching the end of your teacher training, start talking with your mentors and the people that led your teacher training. Start asking them questions about like what the next steps are for you and what they think is going to be a good fit for you, if they maybe have a studio in mind that you should look at, or if you did a training through a studio that you're already going to. Communicate with your the managers of that studio, the other instructors that you have interest in teaching there, if you do have interest in teaching there, and just kind of figure out what the process looks like to be able to teach in that studio. A lot of places will have you do an audition to be able to teach there, just so they can see what your teaching style is, see what your comfortability level is, maybe like at a bigger studio where you're on a microphone, to see if you're comfortable with that. How your personality comes through in your teaching. I'm gonna do a whole video on like auditioning to work at a studio, because I have done that process twice now living in St. Louis, and it's different, it's interesting. The first studio that I taught at, I got a job with them out of teacher training. So I did my audition, I passed, and they offered me a job. So that's kind of how I did it. But yeah, as you approach the end of your teacher training, just start thinking about what you want to do with Pilates. Do you even want to teach at all? Maybe you don't, and you just went through teacher training and you're like, yeah, I'm not ready to teach right now, and that's okay. But yeah, just think about what your next steps are. Start to make connections within the Pilates community where you live, and even the Pilates community online. Make connections with people, and even online, like if you make connections with someone, they might be able to connect you with somebody else in your area. Start taking classes. If you did a training where like you weren't at someone's like home studio, does that make sense? I don't know. But if you did a training like not out of a studio that is like looking to hire instructors, start shopping around at different studios and see what is like the right fit for you, see what class style you like, what instructor style you like. Start talking to the instructors, maybe talking to management, and just like put some feelers out. You don't have to make any decisions right away coming out of teacher training, and you might even feel more comfortable just continuing to practice for a little bit, but just start talking to people and making connections. I think that's the best thing that you can do to set yourself up for success post-teacher training. Also recognize that once teacher training ends, that is not the end of your education. It's not the end of your training. It is really just the beginning, and you will learn so much as you continue to practice teach, as you continue to teach and you get your first clients, you'll learn a lot about building relationships with people. You'll learn a lot about, you know, what effectively works in a group class versus what effectively works in a one-on-one session. You'll learn a lot about you, and you'll learn a lot from people asking you questions that maybe you don't know right away and have to go home and research. So note the learning doesn't stop after teacher training. It continues, and then you'll get to a point that you want to go through another teacher training and keep learning more. So the education doesn't stop and you shouldn't let it stop, because we're always getting new information about how our body moves and biomechanics and just health and fitness in that space. We're always getting new information. So know that the learning does not stop. That should excite you. That excites me. I love to learn, and I'm a lifelong learner. I think that is going to conclude this little Q&A video. If you have any other questions, or you have maybe topics that you would want to see me do a video on, please let me know those in the comments. You know, help me guide myself in this content. Again, I'm not going to promise you weekly videos. I've made that mistake in the past, and I just don't want to fall into that trap. So stick with me right now while we figure out what the new routine is going to be. I appreciate you being here and showing me grace. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. You are awesome, and you can do anything you put your mind to, and I will see you back here for our next video.